Welcome to Some Good Tea, where we drink some tea and we share some tea. I'm your host, Katie, and today I am being joined by Katie.
Woo! Good to be back.
It's so great. I love it when you come. It's so fun. Because then I am not just talking to myself.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
It was kind of like talking to myself because, like, I have red hair. You have red hair.
True.
I'm Katie. You're Katie.
You have green eyes? Hazel eyes? Something.
Yes, all of the above,
Me too,
right?
so,
Because, like, people with hazel eyes, they're like, oh, you have blue eyes, or you have green eyes, or you have brown eyes. I'm like, I don't know.
They're like,
What's the weather like today?
Depends on how the sun hits them.
It depends, yes, on my mood. I have mood ring eyes.
Mm.
Yeah. Today we are enjoying Passion by Tazo.
Ooh.
It's delicious, and it's very hot. And so we're going to let it cool down a little bit.
We'll see how long I can wait.
I know, it's really good tea. And we're going to be talking about something that I'm passionate about and something that you are passionate about. While we enjoy this passionate tea, we're going to be talking about books.
Love it.
I'm so excited. Would you like to roll the dice first?
Yes. Push it downstairs.
Yes.
Oh, 17.
Oh, nice. Okay. So we're just going to start out that we need to acknowledge, quote unquote, the classics. Why are they so classic? Do they even deserve that title? Have you ever thought about the books that you were forced to read in school? Would you substitute others and call those classic instead?
I think, in all honesty, I think that some of the books we read in high school were good. And most of the ones that we read were garbage. And
I love this already.
I think it has something to do with, I mean, it's just the age group. It's a generation thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, we would think, someone might call, in a few years, someone might call Harry Potter a classic.
Yeah.
It depends on age. It depends on, honestly, the age of the person who's calling it a classic. And, like, what it's about, the morals it teaches, the story it tries to get across, the point it tries to make.
Yeah.
And there were some, like, I really, really liked at least 2, if not 3, books that I read through, like, late middle school and through high school.
Mm-hmm.
I, for one, really, really liked The Great Gatsby.
Me too.
Loved The Great Gatsby.
Me too.
There were, to save on time, there were a couple of others.
Yeah.
But, like, The Great Gatsby stands out. The ones that stand out as horrid, that I did not see the point in, like, I struggled, and let me just make that clear, I love reading.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I mean, I wouldn't just talk about books with anybody.
Right, it has to be me. I struggled to get through Brave New World.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot remember who wrote it. Couldn't tell you
That's
a whole
okay.
lot about it.
Somebody out there listening is mad with you right now, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, it's a classic. How dare
It's a
you?
classic.
Do you even read?
Yeah.
But, like, I just remember, and again, maybe if I read it again as, like, an older adult now.
Yeah. A lot of those books hit differently as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, they were intended to be read by adults.
Yeah, but they're like, let's talk about this. And I'm like, I don't know what to talk about. I don't understand what's happening. Like, I did, but I didn't.
You don't.
But I don't feel like it was told. Like, I get the point it was trying to make.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand why they were going about it the way they did.
Yeah.
And I was just like, by the end of it, I was like, okay. And so when I had to, like, write a book report on it, I was, like, very honest and was just like, I don't get it.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't think my teacher liked me very much for that.
Probably not. But, like, it's rough, right? It's really rough. And especially with some of those books being written for a very, very different audience at a very, very different time period with a very, very different voice, different use of the English language itself. Like, it hits differently. There's a different understanding. Like, oof. There's so much that can be lost, especially when you're consuming it at a younger age, and you're being forced into it. And that's almost, I feel like, a disservice to the work itself.
Mm-hmm. There were like several books that were read to me that I still remember, like when we would have reading time in like the 4th and 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Otto, Len Otto,
Aww.
if you ever hear this, he would read to us, and we would have like quiet time.
Yeah.
And so he would read, and we read so many books, but like one of the ones that I remember reading or having him read to us was called Petey.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about this man who was born with severe cerebral palsy.
Oh.
Like severe. And it was a story about like how he was like his childhood from the moment he was born until he like into adulthood.
Wow.
And how like his life
what his life was like.
And then how he was able to change the life of this young man by leaps and bounds.
Wow.
And it was like, it's a kind
That's
of
a
heavy subject,
topic.
but the way they wrote it, even me as like as a 5th grader, like understood the depth of this story.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like certain books, they try to get like this massive point across, but it's buried so deep.
Yeah. Under
so many like, whoa, look at this and look at that, and you're like, just tell me the story. Just tell me what you mean.
Guys, it's a 5th grader.
Yeah.
Your audience is a 5th grader.
Right. But the, like, yeah, and then you have, like, high schoolers.
Yeah.
Who are, like, trying to find out who they are, trying to figure out what life is.
Yeah.
And I'm like...
just trying to survive sometimes.
And, like, again, I understood the point of the book, but I was so bored by it.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
attention span is, like, 0.2 seconds.
Right.
Like, don't care about anything. Hormones are everywhere. You gotta get them to care, but you also need to keep that attention. It's hard. And, yeah, I think... it's a difficult balance. Mm-hmm. It's a really difficult balance. And yeah, it's hit and miss, because I think it's really interesting how some of the quote unquote classics will capture you randomly when you're forced to read it as a middle schooler.
Yeah.
And then others you'll like pick up on your own as an adult of your own free will and choice, and you'll be like, ugh.
Yeah.
Be like, why did I want to read Deerslayer? You know?
There was one, though, I picked up as an adult. After I think it was like 4 or 5 years after I graduated, I picked up The Road.
Oh, yeah.
And I read that, and I was like, why couldn't I read this in high school? Maybe it would have hit different back then.
Yeah.
But I remember reading through it and was like, wow, it's really good. I like it.
Yeah. I don't think, and that's kind of why I tossed this question in here, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to this question. I just like it because it gets you really thinking about your experience and potentials and that type of thing. Yeah, I think it just hits differently, and it gets us thinking also just on the idea and the lines of what actually makes something a classic, and can we really define literature that way? Is it just a time thing, or is it not? And is it something that we really need to reanalyze? And should we be forcing children to read these like deep novels that were originally written by adults for adults like 100 years ago, sometimes plus 100 years plus, like the Odyssey? Like, guys, come on.
Okay, I gotta admit, I'm one of those weird kids. Like, when we read the Odyssey and we read, what else was it? It was a long time ago, guys. High school.
Now, like, there's like versions of those like really old books that are like rewritten for children. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
Like, if you as a 5th grader were forced to read like the Iliad, good for you. Like, whoa. Like, dang, whoa. You were smarter than I was as a kid. Like, dang, that's impressive. Good for you. But yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. Which is, again, it's a generational thing. It's how you view what makes a classic a classic.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. It's cooling off. Is
it? Okay.
Mm-hmm. You can get a little sip.
Sip without, burning my
fully
taste buds
dying. Mm-hmm. It's spectacular. It's named Passion for a reason.
Okay, yeah, new favorite tea.
You're welcome.
And that's hard because as Katie,
Here you go. That's
the original
for
Katie
you.
knows, I am not a huge tea person, so it is a struggle to find teas that I like.
Now, I brewed this particularly strong, so it's a very forward flavor.
Ooh, good.
Yep, very forward flavor. This one, we did 3 little satchels. I did about a tablespoon of our blue agave because OG Katie does not do honey, even though Katie 2.0 does honey. So we forego the honey for OG Katie. And
to be fair, like to put this out there, I love honey.
I did.
And I ate it as a kid and figured out that
honey doesn't love you.
No, as an adult, for whatever reason, my body said, haha, you like honey? Not anymore.
Not anymore.
And yeah, I will have severe allergic reactions to it.
That's so sad.
It is sad, but
honey is
the replacement is still good.
Agave is excellent. Very, very easy replacement for honey with that one. It is sweeter, so you don't need as much. I was pretty generous. This is supposed to be a very sweet tea. You can make this an iced tea. And so you would brew it like you normally do. And then do like a 50-50 with cold water. Or if you want to have fun, 50-50 with cold lemonade.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we switch it up. We do lemonade next time.
Uh-huh. I'm down.
It's so hot here.
I know. Well, it was like cold and blustery a bit-ish, kind of, sort of, not really today. But anyway. I'm not talking about tea. We're talking about books. I'm going to roll the dice. Oh, that was 17 again. We're going to roll this again. Silly dice. 12.
Just really likes that number.
I guess so. Okay, we all have favorite authors, series, etc., but what do you do when you are in between authors and or books? How do you find the new one?
Oh, that is rough.
Yeah.
Because I went through like a phase of like liking a certain genre or liking certain types of stories within that genre, like tropes and all that.
Yeah.
And it just takes time.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I find that like obviously like having friends recommend things.
Oh yeah.
Is good. There are times I've had friends recommend books though, because they're like, "Oh, you really liked this book, or you like this series, you'll love this one," and I read it and just.
I feel like that's. That to me, I feel, okay, this is going to be kind of like a weird analogy. You tell me if this hits for you. Finding, like, a new book or a new author is like going on a blind date.
Ooh.
Yeah.
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 It really is.
And especially, like, when it's a blind date that somebody's, like, recommended to you, right? Like, if it was, like, a friend that was like, hey, you really like these books, you should try this one. Right? That's like going on a blind date with somebody that your friend was like, oh, let me set you up with so-and-so because I think you will really get along. Now, I have a rule that I will never let anyone do that to me ever again because it has never gone well.
Nope.
Now, like, guys, I don't want you to think that I'm like the most awful person ever and I'm jaded and terrible and I don't go on dates and blah, 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 blah. Like, I made this rule after years and years of collecting strict scientific data. I have an N that's greater than 1, okay? We went on lots of blind dates, okay? We trusted a lot of friends, okay? We've been burned a lot of times, okay? Like,
it's fine.
I'm fine.
We're doing
We're
fine.
fine. I'm gonna sip my tea.
Sip your tea. Calm the nerves.
So anyway, finding a new book is like that. Sometimes it goes well, okay? Sometimes your friend actually knows you fairly well, and they set you up with a good book. And you're like, oh my gosh, like that was actually pretty dang good. Like, it was a little bit here, it was a bit weird, and over here it was a bit weird. But, like, okay, you kind of, like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we read similar stuff or whatever. Like, okay, yeah. But I feel like for me, for the most part, every now and then, depending on who it is, like, I definitely have my people who, like, I know my closer friends versus, like, family members. Where you're, like, your weird aunt. Like, you can think of the weird aunt. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Yeah.
Maybe.
You're, like, weird aunt that would give you, like, a weird book recommendation, or, like, your weird aunt that would try to set you up on a date. Right? Although, that you would just be like, thanks. But no thanks.
Yeah, I've been
right.
blind dates like that. Where it's like, oh yeah, you guys will get along perfectly, and then I like
he lives in his grandma's basement and he's 45. He has 12 dogs.
But like, it's like, oh yeah, he loves this and you love this, but then you realize that's the only thing you have in common. You're like, that doesn't make a relationship.
Oh my gosh, like sometimes we're not talking about dating. Never mind. We're not gonna go on that tangent. Stop it, Katie.
It's fine.
Stop it. Focus. But like that's it's a struggle because sometimes those recommendations from friends, like all my friends who listen to this podcast, who are on this podcast, like you, like you guys save my life sometimes with your book recommendations. So don't be sad. Like you saved my life. I'm in this period right now. Like I am actively like looking for not dates. I'm looking for new books. You're welcome. I'm looking for new books. I'm looking for new books. I'm looking for new authors because I'm trying to find some new ones. I got my oldies and my goodies that I can also always come back to that are my old reliables. But like I'm trying to find the new series that I'm gonna follow. Like that phase. And like, oh my gosh, you guys save me all the time. So don't stop. But like, yeah. I got the weird aunt, for sure. Yeah, I got the weird friends sometimes who are like, oh yeah, here's this weird self-help book or whatever.
You're like, that's not even.
He's like, that's not even.
That is not the romantasy I ordered.
Did not. What? Or just like, oh my gosh, like, or people. Okay, yeah, that's a real hard. Or like, I feel like whatever the algorithm is on like Amazon or Audible or whatever, that's just like, oh, you looked at this thing one time, therefore you must also want to look at all of these other things. It's like, no. Like, no.
Yeah. I find that I really have to do my research, especially
it's a lot of work.
If it is not a trusted friend or a trusted family member or whoever else that is recommending these books to you.
It's so much work.
And you are personally going out there and being like, I need a new book. And you're looking, I have to do so much research because like I love certain tropes, but I also have those tropes that I absolutely despise. And sometimes the books that I read, it's unfortunately, have both.
Rough. Yeah.
Like, they'll be in that middle ground.
Yeah. Like, when I tell you that it's, like, dating, I'm being serious. Because, like, you'll have your, like, red flag tropes. That you're like, I cannot stand these. If this happens, if this certain scene or this certain style of writing or whatever happens, I will literally throw up in the back of my mouth and throw it across the room and scream and die. But if this certain scene happens, then I am happy forever, just happy little schoolgirl skipping through the fields. I'll read you over and over and over again, and I'm just over the moon, just like 12-year-old child, just happy, content, skipping through the fields, unicorns, rainbows, right?
Yep.
But if they happen at the same time, what are you supposed to do? Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what if he's a serial killer and he saves puppies?
Right.
Like, what are you supposed to do?
And, like, it's how... I mean, I just got done rereading a book where... And, like, if I describe it, I guarantee the people listening to this, if you read it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
You're welcome to say not a sponsor, just a fan.
Not a sponsor, just a fan.
That's what I say about the tea all the time.
I absolutely adore the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. And I'm currently rereading it because my roommate is reading it for the first time. And so we are reading it together.
That's like the best. Okay, like being able to re-experience anything, like a movie, a game, a book, with someone for the first time.
Right?
That's the best.
So we're reading it back and forth. Like, I read a chapter, then she reads a chapter.
That's the best.
It's so much fun, because then, like, when things happen, we're both freaking out.
You're just like, oh my gosh, you just got to that part.
Right? And, like, I knew it was coming.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Like, TikTok is a thing, so you get things spoiled for you if you're on BookTok.
Yeah, guys, like, just don't. My advice to you, like, if you're just getting into anything, right? Whatever the book series is, like, don't spoil it for yourself. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't. Just experience it raw. For the first time ever. It's the best. It's the best. Feel those emotions. Don't ruin it.
Yeah. So.
Oh man, this tea.
But like, so we started reading this book.
Yeah.
And the first time I read it, I don't know if I was completely blind or if I was hoping for something different or what have you.
Dude, it's like you're describing a relationship. It's
right?
great.
It is. If there were like so many red flags that I was like, and then I went back through it and I was like, there are so many red flags. So many with
dude.
Tamlin.
Yeah, dude.
Sorry if you didn't know by now to shut off this podcast until you've read the book.
Yeah, okay.
Spoiler alert.
Okay. I'll put a disclaimer. Yeah. If you like
Spoilers
it's
for
the if the title of the podcast and our intro didn't give it away, like we're talking about books. I'll put it in the description. The like books that we talk about, so that whatever. Yeah. But like so that if you're gonna read the books that we talk about, so we don't spoil them, because I want you guys to have a real and raw experience when you read stuff for the first time, because it's important. But like, yeah, like, how you didn't notice the first time through?
Yeah,
babe. So, honey,
okay,
honey, what's wrong with you?
Hear me out.
No.
It's a podcast. You have to hear me out. Anyway, so I did not see. Like, I saw some of them, but I was like, no, he's gonna get better.
It'll be fine. He's gonna be cute. Fine.
And like,
he's handsome. He probably gets better in the end.
He probably just has a lot that he's dealing with, and especially
he's complicated,
right? Especially once they came back out from under the mountain. Mm-hmm. Now, I was one of those people that like looked at him not doing anything for her under the mountain for a little bit. Like, once it got to a certain point, I was like, oh, the first time he sees her, of course he's going to be emotionless. He doesn't want Amarantha.
Of course he's, like, closed off.
Right? Like,
he doesn't want like, this all makes sense. Right? Like, I get it. Like, a lot of the stuff makes sense at the beginning. Right?
But then
it's easy to write off. It's easy to write off.
Even on the first go-through, I was like, okay. There comes a point, like, at first, if you're going to be closed off, and it's because you don't want to show emotion, because you don't want your loved one that you're showing emotion for to be hurt, that I can understand. Yep. But when she almost dies several times, and the only reason she lived is because other people stuck their neck out for her. So then I remember getting to the next book. And there are certain things that are said in the next book about how Tamlin reacted and how, like, the things that he did. And it's like, Feyre is like defending him, being like, oh, well, these things and that things. And multiple characters, not just the new male lead, not just Rhysand. Other characters are like, but you do realize he could have done this over here. And you're just like, oh. Well, okay. But so to get back to the question.
This podcast and its tangents.
Tie this back into the question. I love this series because of the way it deals with emotional stuff.
Yes.
Like, it deals with abuse. It deals with trauma. It deals with, I could go on forever. It deals with so many hard things that, removing the fantasy from this story, we all deal with a lot of these things in our life. We have trauma. We have bouts of depression. We have, you know, some people go through life-threatening things.
Yeah.
And it's rough.
Yeah. Like, even just what you're describing of, you didn't really, like, your first read through, you didn't really look at that relationship and see all the red flags. Mm-hmm. You didn't, until you got to the second book, and just like how everything was pointed out to her, mm-hmm. everything was pointed out to you, and you, the reader, were like, oh my gosh. Yep. Oh my gosh, you're right. He totally could have. Right. Like, that happens to people in real life. And that's the beauty of what we're able to do in writing books, is that we can, it's a mirror, right? It's a mirror that we can, like, reflect real life back at
it's like,
ourselves.
What's that saying? It's like, art imitates life and life imitates art. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's so beautiful. And that's so powerful. And it can be absolutely infuriating how accurate that kind of stuff is. Because, you know, you'd read that and be like, there's no way people would act this way. Like, no, people do act that way. Mm-hmm. People absolutely act that way. Absolutely. People act that way all the dang time. The reason why we write that way, the reason why we like those stories, is because it's believable, because we act that way all of the time. And we want to read those kinds of stories because we do want to be better. And we do want to see that it works out in the end. And that people change. And that people can still fall in love. And that magic is real. And unicorns and stuff. You know? There's that side of things too.
Well, I'm like, I think about it. And like, I don't think I had ever read a book before I picked up this series and one of her other series. Yeah. I had never read a book or a series where the supposed love interest that you thought was going to be there forever, you thought they were going to be like the ride or die couple. Yeah. I had never read a book where that wasn't true, where it turned out that the first person they fell in love with wasn't actually, it's like if Belle in Beauty and the Beast fell for Gaston, and you didn't see how awful he was at first. And then all of a sudden she falls in love, you know, like this beast comes and takes her away. And you're like, oh no, he's horrible too.
Oh no, he's evil
she
too.
She needs to get back to Gaston. And then you're like, oh,
wait a second.
The beast is actually the hero of this story.
That's actually, and this is controversial. I have feelings about Court of Thorns and Roses, but I have feelings about romance, and that's my own personal problem. I don't see it as a problem, and that's fine. But that's one of the things that I actually really, really like about it. Because one of my things about romance is that it's so predictable. That, like, within the first, like, couple of chapters, they're like two young lovers. Yep. They, like, see each other across a crowded room. And whether it's, like, love to hate or rescuers or whatever, like, it doesn't matter how it is, but they, like, meet each other and they are going to end up together. And you immediately know, they're, like, introduced, and you immediately know, okay, that's them. And that is one that, like, flips it on its head a little bit. And I have always felt like that's one of its like redeeming qualities as a romance, because I'm like, oh, thank goodness, because in life, that's not how it happens in life either. Like, it's very uncommon for you to see, like, the first person that you're attracted to or not attracted to is the person that you spend your whole life with forever.
Like,
that doesn't happen.
Does it happen that, like, the first person you date, you, like, just realize that they're the one? Like, I've heard that happening. I had a friend that happened to. It happens.
However, but just as commonly, you also get other stories just as commonly, if not more so. And I just like it when there's other stories represented more, you know, like that's my PSA for romance, guys. Like I would like to see more representation. And I'm not talking about like more like race representation. I think we're doing a good job. I'm not talking about like LGBTQ representation. Not like that. Like I think we're doing a good job. I'm talking about just like introduction representation, like how they meet each other more.
Yeah, we've definitely fallen into like
the same old.
Yeah.
The same old story, like the same old trope. I would like to see a different story.
Yeah.
Like
you have like
more of a different story.
Like love at first sight, you have enemies to lovers, and it's like
same old.
Yeah, I love
like
twists.
Yes.
Because I don't know, just because this is the book that we're on right now. Take Tamlin and Farah.
Yeah.
It went from enemies to lovers to enemies again.
Yep.
And I was like, whoa. First of all,
didn't see that coming.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
And I appreciate that so freaking much.
Yeah.
Because everybody's like, oh, I love the enemies to lovers thing. Like, why? It's so predictable.
Mm-hmm.
It is so predictable. I'm so bored. If I can predict where your romance is going, bleh. Bleh.
Yeah, that's
bleh.
Fair. That's why, and see, I'm one of those people that, like, I would say probably my all-time favorite trope is enemies to lovers, but you have to do it right.
That's fair.
You have to do it right, and you have to do it, like, because there's so many books out there. I know, I've read a lot of them.
It's a trope for a reason.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have to do it at this point. There are so many. You have to do it with a unique twist, or at least a
gotta be interesting.
Yeah, it's gotta be interesting fun. In some way.
Gotta be believable. Like, my gosh, gotta be believable. But anyway, I don't hate all romance, guys. I don't hate it all. I just feel like it's been beaten to death. Like, my gosh, the poor thing. It's supposed to be about love. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's so sad. Anyway, we should move on before I get beaten to death for not liking romance.
How dare you?
So
your turn or my turn?
I think it's my turn. 8. That's what I get. Get a low number. Ooh. Oh, this is such a hard question. It's going to make me think really hard. Can you think of the best start of a book you have ever read? Did the rest live up to it? The best
Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk about this one for a second.
The best start. There have been some pretty dang good starts.
And that's the thing is, like, the book has to have an interesting start or I'm not going to keep reading.
Yeah.
Like, I give it one chapter.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if there's not at least one little hook that makes me go, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll put the book down.
I tend to, like, crappy starts tend to stick in my head. because, like, you remember, like, oh, man, that sucked so bad. And then you stay away from it because it was, like, stinky. Blech.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or, like, you slogged through it. It was like the trenches. You, like, slogged through it until it finally got better. And then you were like, it turned out pretty dang good. But, man, like, there was an entire series that I slogged through. It didn't really, like, take off until halfway through the second book. And it was, like, slogging through it. And, like, I stuck with it because one of my friends was like, it gets good, I promise. And I did. I slogged through it, and it was good.
I mean, and this is probably not, like, the best, but it's one that obviously has stuck in my mind since I'm thinking about it now. But the start to The Hobbit.
Okay.
That,
actually,
like,
yes.
That's a good one.
That's
because
so
it
good.
immediately grips you. Because now, like, for those of you who like Lord of the Rings, if I say a Hobbit hole, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But when The Hobbit was first written, Hobbit was not like a household name, like in the fantasy community. Nobody knew what a hobbit was because it hadn't been written
fantasy
about yet.
Wasn't even really like a thing, guys. Can you imagine? Like, fantasy wasn't really a thing. It was like invented.
Right.
Like, okay, yeah, actually, legitimately one of the best starts to a book ever. Because, like, even just like thinking about those those phrases, and picture it. I can see Hobbiton in my head, and the green door, and the doorknob in the center of it that doesn't make any sense on how it would work. It makes me so happy. Like, it just makes me super happy inside.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is great.
It's so great.
Books are great.
Books are so great. Books are so freaking great. And that's probably, like, extremely cliche. But yeah, that's probably one of the best starts to a book ever.
Yeah. Because, I mean, yeah, it instantly pulls you in because you're like, what's a hobbit hole? And then
like, The Lord of the Rings starts out really, really, really well also. For sure. But yeah, The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes on and describes, like, it wasn't like a musty hole or a dank hole, but it's like warm and cozy. And he describes how, like, cozy and nice a hobbit hole was. I also really like, what's that one book? It was like about like like Toad, and he like steals a motor car and goes on like a little adventure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah.
That's a classic right there.
Yeah. What was that book called? It has a really cute start.
Hold up.
Yeah. Oh man, I dug that up from the recesses of my dusty files. That is such a fun little start. I really loved like Redwall as a kid, like anything that had little critters. Like little critters living in cute little holes, like Narnia and the Hobbit and the little toad.
Is it Frog and Toad?
Was it Frog and Toad?
No. It's not Frog and Toad. It's
No.
Oh my gosh, I can see.
And he has his like little animal friends, and they like go on this adventure, and he gets in all sorts of trouble because he like steals this guy's car. But they go on this whole whirlwind adventure.
Oh, I think it's.
And there was like this cute little cartoon that was made of it.
Well, and there's a Disneyland ride.
Yes. Yes, there is.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. But
yes.
I don't remember if that's the name of the book.
No, it's not. Oh my gosh, what is that?
It's loosely based on Disney's
And there's a little Disney movie made of the book.
The Wind in the Willows.
The Wind in the Willows. Oh my gosh, I freaking love that book.
Surprisingly animated package film, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Yes.
That's what it is.
They're all these cute little woodland animals, and they go on this funny little adventure, and Mr. Toad is like the rich, crazy friend, and he's like absolutely crazy, and at the beginning of the adventure, he has like this horse and cart, and he's rich, and so he has this horse and cart, and they go on this adventure, and he sees someone drive by in a motor car, and he's like, I have to have this motor car, and he like steals the motor car, and he like goes to court, and they put him in prison, and he's all sorts of sad, like it's this whole thing, but he's like this rich, crazy friend. It's such a funny book. It's such a freaking funny book, but it's all about how he's this like rich, crazy friend, and he just had to have the fast motor car. He just wanted to drive
Live
fast.
your life. It's fine.
I love that. And Mole was like the little friend, and it starts with him like doing his spring cleaning. He's just minding his own business, and something about like all these little animals in their little forest homes was just so cozy. My little kid brain was just like, oh man, like the Hobbits, little cozy house.
Yeah.
Mole's little cozy house. Like Redwall, little cozy house.
We
like,
just want little cozy houses.
We do. I think I just
want.
actually want a little cozy house, and something about all these little books starting with little cozy houses. Like all these people are like, you need some kind of super epic story start. And like, nah, just give me like a really little cozy house. Is apparently where my story needs to start.
Yeah, there you go. Go to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Go to where they built Hobbiton.
I want to go so. You know I do. I want to go so bad. I think we have time for maybe like one more question. Do you want to roll the dice one more time?
Oh, this tea is so good.
I know, man.
All
it's
right.
so great.
17
again. What the heck?
Isn't that a movie? 17 again.
Oh, yeah, it is actually.
9.
The Mighty 9.
Oh, no, we're not getting on that. We just found out about the release date for the Mighty 9 animation.
Oh.
And Katie 2.0 had a little bit of a freak out.
Maybe just a little bit. we'll have to talk about the Mighty Nine. That could be like a whole other thing. Hardcover or paperback? Or does it even matter? Why would you choose one over the other?
Okay, so...
And. We're not... Price, not factored into it at all.
If I could have any book I wanted.
Exactly.
I was going to say...
Yeah.
That it depends on the bank account while I'm shopping for books.
Obviously.
Right. But I am not a patient person. So when I first was reading, I swear this isn't my favorite series. It really isn't, honestly, but it's just the one that's on my brain right now. But A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Oh my gosh, you in this book series.
Right? When I was buying it, I bought the first two paperback because they'd been out a while. But then I finished the second one and was like, I gotta read the third one. And could not wait for them to come out with the paperback version. So I bought the hardcover. Right? It's heresy in the book community. But so I did that. And
so you have two, and it's
so
like a different size.
I was the first and the second one
on your
smaller,
bookshelf.
Right.
Next to each other.
Yep. And then I had the big one. And I'm like, that needs to be taken care of in a bit.
No.
But I very much appreciate hardcover.
Yeah.
I will buy paperback if I must. But if money wasn't a thing, like if I didn't care how much I was spending on a hardcover,
everything would be
hardcover.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
I have recently, within like the last couple of months, really started to build, or decided that I wanted to start building my book collection.
Library.
Yes.
Library.
So I have several books. I have moved a few times, and every single time I'm like, I need to get rid of some of my books because they're super heavy, and I didn't realize how many there were. And they're pain in the butt.
Real world problems, man.
I have gotten rid of maybe two. That's fine. I have two giant bookshelves full of books. It's fine. I don't have a problem.
Good job.
But my point in saying that is that I've started to build my collection. But I want nice books. Yeah. So like the first one,
they make us have the pretty thoughts in pretty story brain,
right?
Space times, and you want to look at them and be just like, wow, they're so pretty.
Right. And it's not like, it's things that I want. Like I will not just go out and buy a collection or like a fancy book of a story. Like I can't even think of one at the moment, but like
those collector edition things,
right? But
where they're like put all smushed together, but they don't match.
But like, I would take those if it was a story I liked.
Yes, you're not just buying them to be like,
oh, look at this
a decoration
special edition I have.
Yeah, like my parents had literally these bookshelves. They were like tall and skinny. They bought the bookshelves and they came with books. They were old books. They were like made to look old.
Yeah.
Like they came out of a library. And they were all in Latin. You couldn't read them. And it was made to look like made to make your house look like it was like an old library. And it was all written in Latin, and they were all these different like Latin texts.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Those are not the ones.
They looked cool.
Yeah, they look cool.
They were useless.
But I want them because like I want to pick them up and read them. So like the first one I have is the complete collection of Sherlock Holmes. So I have that.
I have one of those.
I have every single story put into this beautiful, beautiful
like collector's set.
Yeah, like, but it's not even a set. It's one book.
Yeah.
It's a gigantic. I could kill a man
chunky.
with it.
Yeah. Mine is split up into two.
Ooh, very nice.
It's really pretty.
And then I just recently got minus, obviously, because this book would be gigantic, bigger than it already is. But it's the entire Lord of the Rings, so the trilogy.
The three. I like to have the three.
Right?
I think it looks good as three rather than like one.
I could not. Normally, I would agree because I'm like, oh, there's a lot of like sets that I've seen that are really pretty.
They just look so nice.
But I found one. I can show you a picture after we're done. but I found one that is like a beautiful cover, and then it's illustrated. It has pull-out maps, front and back. Of one is all of Middle Earth, and the other one is one that that Tolkien drew just for Return of the King. And it's basically a zoomed-in version of the map of Gondor and Mordor. Because we spend so much time there.
Yeah.
But then I would like to get I have a really nice edition, illustrated edition of The Hobbit. So I would love, because I've never read it, I would love to get a really nice version of the Silmarillion.
I may or may not have my mom's copy of the Silmarillion because it's an OG copy of the Silmarillion with the OG maps still in it.
Oh, okay. I need to see that book.
Oh, yeah, I'll show it to you when you're done.
Yeah. But yeah, so I really like hardcover because I feel like it's just like the art of like how pretty some of these special editions are. Yeah. I feel like would be so lost on a paperback copy.
Yeah. I feel like for me, like samesies, right? When I'm going for like the aesthetic. And there's weirdly like some, like the reason why I get like paperback is either because like I already had it and I'm not going to get rid of it until I replace it. Yeah. Or I'm just not going to get rid of it because it's my OG copy. And so you keep like the original and that's your like beater copy that this is what you actually like take with you on the airplane or whatever when you are just feeling nostalgic and you want to read it. But that's the pretty one that stays up there to stay safe. Right? Or if somebody wants to borrow your book, you're like, okay, here's the paperback, but you never touch this.
Do not touch.
Right? Like my like Silmarillion from my mom. Yeah, nobody is going to be taking that, but like here's my little beater copy.
Yeah. There is one book that I love. Don't ask me why I love this book so much. I don't know. I cannot tell you. I just do.
Aww.
No one has probably, right? No one has probably ever heard of this book.
I want to know what it is.
The reason I have this book at all is because I remember I was at my grandparents' house and I was going through their books and like a lot of them were like either textbooks or like church books or whatever.
Like old grandparent books.
Yeah, they're my grandparents. They have some old books. But I remember seeing this one book and I was like, this actually looks like a story. Like a
storybook.
Yeah, a storybook. And I was like, wait, what? So I pulled it out and I was flipping through it and I read the back and it was paperback and I was like, okay, this is weird. They normally have just like hardcovers. And I noticed that inside was written like to my grandparents and was like signed by the author and everything. And so I showed my grandpa.
Like, what's this?
And I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, the author used to be our neighbor when we were living in, I think, it's been a long time since I've heard the story.
You're Japan.
But, yeah, basically. But when they lived in Utah, they had a neighbor that wrote a book and gave them a signed copy. Just like, hey, if you want this, here you go.
What?
And then my grandparents, I don't know what happened, but before I could ask them, because I read it and then gave it back, and before I could ask them if I could keep it, because they were like, oh yeah, you can just like have it if you want. I'm like, oh, it's yours. I'll like leave it on the shelf. They were going through things and they accidentally threw it away. Not threw it away, they gave it away. I think. Because I never found it again.
It's gone.
Yeah, so the signed copy is gone. I was able to find another copy online, thankfully, but it was really hard for me to get. And I'm
but
like,
you have the story.
So I have the story.
You have the story.
No one borrows that book. That is the only one I will never lend out, other than my special editions and stuff. Yeah. That is one of the only non-special editions.
I was going to say, like, that's, like, that really sucks. Like, signed copy, ixnay onge. Yeah. But, like, whew. Right? Whew. There's so many parts of me that was like,
yeah. But it was just a really, like, every time I read it, I just go, I really like this book. I can't tell you why. I just don't.
There's so many parts of me that is, like, so sad about that. Because it's like, oh, that person will never know. And, like, oh my gosh. Like
there are times that I want to, like, look up this neighbor.
That you want to find them and just be like,
if you're still
your
around,
story was meaningful to me.
Yeah.
Like they would probably be so happy to hear that.
Right?
Like,
and I'm like, I just want to tell him and just be like, your story, I don't know what it was, and I still to this day cannot tell anyone why I love this book so much.
But something about it just struck a chord.
About your story resonated with me.
I love that so much. I love that so much.
This book should have been so much more popular than it was, and maybe it's just me, which is why I'm reticent to say the title on the podcast. I'll tell you later.
And that's okay. But, like, that's okay, guys.
It was such a special book to me that I was like, oh, I just love this so much.
And like, we tend to be really critical of ourselves, and like, granted, I was just being really critical of just romance a second ago.
There you.
We're allowed to have our opinions. But there is also just something to be said about like sharing your gift. Like sharing your story. Because you don't know who it's going to resonate with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't know. You don't know.
You never know.
You never know.
And it's like, it's the same thing as like, we've talked about this on episodes before. But the fact that I'm a writer.
Yeah.
And I, like, it will take a lot of, like, inner strength.
Yeah.
To eventually publish it.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I've worked so hard on for so long, off and on, because, you know, life.
Yeah.
But it's something that I've worked so hard on for so long that I'm, like, scared that, like, the first mean comment
is like, what if it's gonna shoot me down? What if I'm crushed forever? But it's like, honestly, I feel like I want any writer to like, I hope you get to the point where you're just like, you know what, just F it, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
F it, just do it.
You just gotta push the button.
Just do it, just put the button, just submit it, just do it. Right? Because like, you won't regret doing it. You'll regret not doing it.
Yep.
Right? Because what if it does touch that one person? What if that one kid reads that one manuscript that one time and has that same experience that you had with that one book that one time? Even if it's just one person.
And in all honesty, even if it's just you.
Yeah.
Even if, like, if everyone's like, yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
But if you feel proud of what you've done.
Yeah. Even if you're, like, proud of what you've done. Even if the only person that it touches is you. That's more than enough.
Yeah.
Right? I think because, like, media connects us so much and sets expectations for anything like so high, right? That it's like, oh, any hobby, anything that you find joy in suddenly has to become a source of revenue. Like, capitalism, keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, stay in your lane. Like, if it does become your second career, good for you.
Yeah.
But like, why can't you just have joy in writing? Because writing is joyful. Like,
yeah. And that's like one of the other things is like, I love to write, but I don't want to put out a book just because I have a deadline.
Yeah.
Or just because I need my next check.
Yeah.
Like, I want to put the love and attention into this book that it deserves.
Like, I think back, this is such a tangent, but it's fine. Like, I think back to, like, being in school and, like, having deadlines and things. And, like, a lot of the writing and stuff that I was doing in school was STEM related. And, like, even the ones that I was, like, the scientific papers and stuff that I was, like, passionate about and, like, wanted to write and things, there was a grind to it. And there was a, like, loss of the like fire and the passion and the excitement and the joy, because it became a job. It became a grade. It became an assignment. And like, after so many edits and so much like resubmitting and this and this and that and that, it just became like bleh. And like, as much as I still like enjoyed it and still did it, still got my degree, I'm still here.
Yeah.
We're still here. We're still fine. Probably.
Fine.
Like, you don't want to be burned out from the thing that you love, right? So like your writing doesn't have to become your job. Like, it doesn't have to become your job. You can just do it because you love it.
Mm-hmm. I write poetry all the time.
Yeah.
And, like, could I publish that? Maybe.
If you wanted to, but it doesn't have to become your job. Like, you can publish stuff for fun.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to publish and make billions of dollars and slave away at it. Like, you could if you wanted to. It would be a lot of work. And you would have to slave away at it. You could try. Mm-hmm. You might make a little bit of money. If you make lots, good for you. Yeah. Like, it's okay to love your craft and have it be a hobby. Like, that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, calm down.
Yeah, just enjoy the ride.
Like, it's okay.
Enjoy writing.
Yeah. Just love your writing. Love your craft. Like, guys, I'm making a podcast for fun. We're drinking tea for fun.
Hey.
Talking about books. Bogs and tea. This tea is so good. Mm-hmm. It's so great. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, yeah. Anytime.
I love having you on. You know I do.
It's a good time.
It's a good time.
It's always a good time when the Katies get on.
When the Katies. Well, I think this is all that we have time for, though, today. But, guys, we will definitely talk at you later.